Morgan, the feature writer for the Marriage Initiative, and I'm so pleased today to introduce you to John Bosio. He and his wife Teri have inspired and strengthened Catholic families for decades through their work writing and leading Catholic marriage enrichment and premarital programs. You have probably heard of Gold Standard's Happy Together, the Catholic Blueprint for a Loving Marriage, 6 Dates for Catholic Couples, and Joined by Grace. John, who has a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, recently published Raising a Catholic Family Today, Building a Domestic Church, a Handbook for Parents. John continues the couple's legacy despite Teri's passing in 2024. John, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, well, tell me about your journey. You and Teri have quite a unique love story.
Yes, we do. I was blessed to have met Teri 55 years ago. It was a blessing. She was a young lady full of faith and love, and she started praying for me when she was 13. And, when her family was in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, she decided she was going to get married at age 13. She decided that, and she decided, I'm going to pray for the husband that is already somewhere in the world at this point, but I don't know where. And so she did. And I was in Italy, and I was in the seminary and studying to be a priest and a missionary. Eventually, God brought us together in Overland Park, Kansas.
Yes.
In the summer of 1970, her family moved to the location in Overland Park, and I moved there also. I had left the seminary. I was hired by the pastor there of Church of the Holy Cross to be the director of religious education. And she was one of my first volunteers, and eventually later on, she became the parish secretary, and we worked on a lot of projects together, and eventually became good friends, started dating, we got engaged. And it was at this point that God gave us our first test. Shortly after our engagement, I received a letter from my government, the Italian government. I was Italian, and asking me to return to Italy to be drafted, to go serve 15 months of military service.
Oh.
That was inconvenient, but there was a problem because I had applied for a green card in the United States. And as long as the application was in process, I could not leave the country. If I left, I would be stuck somewhere waiting to come back until the process is completed. Ultimately, Teri and I decided it was my duty to go home and serve my country. And so I went and tried to work the system. I got out, was exonerated from the military service, but then I was stuck there, didn't come back. And so I had plenty of time to do reading and research and just enjoy life. But Teri and I were communicating daily with letters. And basically it was a great marriage preparation because we talked about our dreams, our hopes, and basically our faith. How do you cope with what's happening and with the uncertainties of what the future is and all of that. Eventually, after 97 days, I was back in the United States, back to my job, back with Teri, and we were married on November 17, 1972.
Oh, I love that you, even now after these years, 50 plus years, half a century, you still remember that it was 97 days. And you and Teri kept all those letters, right? How many letters were there?
We have 120 letters. And in fact, I'm writing a book that she asked me to write for the children, our children. She said, what we went through during that time is a lesson for them. Yeah. I think you need to write something so they can have, when we are gone, our children and grandchildren will have a memory of what happened. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, and you have a wonderful title for it, because I suspect, knowing you and knowing how your writing ability, that's probably not just going to stay for your children and grandchildren, that someday one of us will have the opportunity to read it. Tell me the title. It's such
the title, at least tentatively right now, is called Caught in a Spider's Web. Because I felt like, and I wrote that in one of my letters, I felt caught in a spider's web. I could not go back. I could not go forward. I was stuck. And that's how I felt.
Oh, I just love that. So once you did come back and you were able to marry Terry, you had been working at the parish in religious education, but then you also went back to school there in It was a
Right,
suburb of Kansas City. I love that. That's where I grew up
right,
too.
right. I went to University of Missouri in Kansas City for a degree in counseling and marriage and family therapy. And as we were doing that, it took me several years because I was working and going to school. I was hired. Terry and I were hired by the Archbishop of Kansas City in Kansas to be the family life coordinators for the diocese, which was a very good lesson for us. We had just been married 6 years, uh, to just be exposed to the different aspects of family ministry in a community. We did that for 4 years, and then after 4 years, I decided I wanted to do private practice. And I approached 3 parishes and said, if you give me the office and the clients, I will charge families whatever they can afford. And so we provide a good service to your parish. And they, of course, they were very accepting of that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out well for me because uh, the income did not, I had more clients, but the income wasn't growing. And my
Yeah.
family was growing. So Terry said, this is not going to go anywhere. Why don't you look for a corporate job? And so it's tough. It's tough to make a transition from church work to private practice to a corporate job because there is no equivalent. So I accepted an entry level position with an insurance company, and from there I worked up the ladder to being the international human resource manager for the company. And I did a lot of travel. I love the job. I did a lot of travel, a lot of downtime because when you travel, there's not very much you can do. But God was tapping me on my shoulders and saying, you have a degree in theology, I have a master's degree in theology, you have a degree in counseling plus the counseling experience, and you're not using any of that.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that? And that was bothering me because I felt I've invested a lot of my time and money, even money, to learn all of that, and I was not able to use it. So Terry said, "Why don't you just write some articles for the diocesan newspaper?" So I started writing, but the more I wrote, I became convinced that I needed to look for something more. I needed to look for some what is the essence of married law? It is, what are those qualities that provide stability to marriage? I know there are many lists. I didn't want to come up with just another list. I
Yeah.
wanted to find something that was like an archetype that holds everything together. And so I read many books and I read many articles and research, church documents. And where I found an answer, or at least the answer I thought was the right answer, I think is the right answer, is I found it in the Bible,
Mhm.
because in the Old Testament, God relates to Israel like in a marriage.
Mhm.
And in the New Testament, Christ is called the bridegroom and the church is bride. And St. Paul tells us in Ephesians 5:25, husbands, of course, it applies to husbands and wives, love your wives, love your wife as Christ loved the church.
Mhm.
And so the question for my research became, what does Christ do today for the church
Yeah.
that I need to do for Terry? What do husbands need to, or what do spouses need to do for each other that is like what Christ does for the church? And reading the Bible and the New Testament, the Old Testament, New Testament, I found 6 different attitudes that seem to be what Christ is doing, and they're really experienced by Catholics in the 7 sacraments: baptism, confirmation, Eucharist, forgiveness, sacrament of penance, anointing of the sick, and all the orders and matrimony. So there are 7 sacraments, but it's last 2 go together as a sacrament of service. So acceptance is one of those qualities: welcome and acceptance. Being present to each other, spouses really commit to be present to each other in their marriage vows. Being self-sacrifice, we know we cannot accommodate each other every day in marriage without making some sacrifices.
Yeah.
Forgiveness, it's impossible to live a marriage without forgiveness, otherwise you have resentment.
Mhm.
And then healing. Spouses are the first healers of each other when there is some discomfort. and then service. We cannot function as a family without serving each other. So those are the qualities that I thought they were fundamental to marriage. But before writing anything, I told Terry, we need to try and see, are these applicable to us? And what we discovered is that rather than looking at, what do we need to do, it was like when these are missing in our relationship, we hurt. If we don't respect each other, if we ignore each other, if we are selfish, we hurt each other. So, which means that we need those qualities. And so that's when I wrote the book, Happy Together, the Catholic Blueprint. I call this the God's Blueprint of Love, the Catholic Blueprint for a Loving Marriage. And that became a very successful book. And I thought, okay, I'm done.
I love how every time you came out with a project, you're like, okay, God, I'm done. And then you're like, oh no, God was not done. And
No, you're not done. So one day while I was traveling, I was in Moscow. I received a text message from the US. The director of a Catholic Family Ministry organization said, I read your book. It's very good, very helpful to parishes. You need to do something else, though, because although it is helpful, it could be even more helpful if you put the program together to go with it. Mm-hmm. And I said, I didn't reply, just nothing. I don't want to do any of this. I don't know what to do, first of all. So I went home and talked to Terry, and she says, well, just call the lady and see what she says. Well, she says, you need to have videos. You need to make it in 2 languages. You need to have handouts. I said, well, let me think about it, because I don't have the money to do videos. I don't have the expertise to do videos. I don't have the time to do anything else. I'm traveling, working full time. And so Terry and I prayed for a while about it. And then one day we were talking to someone in our parish, and they said, well, do it. You need to do it. We'll help you. I said, oh, yeah? What? How? Well, we know somebody who has a production company, and somebody who who's a DJ, who can do the narrating. And all of us couples can open our homes to you, and you can come with your cameras and do your videos, interview us. And I said, well, God has taken all the obstacles out. So, there is really no money involved. The expertise is provided. So we did the program called 6 Days for Catholic Couples. It's a program like this. It's a DVD that goes along with the book. And basically, it was very, very successful. It sold to over 1,000 parishes around the world, mostly to countries where they speak English. We put the subtitles in Spanish and did the handouts in English and in Spanish. Anyway, that was very successful. And so that's it. Done, right?
I'm done. But Terry was the one too.
Oh, yeah, she was very involved. She designed the handouts. She did. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, but you had always said she was the one that encouraged you to bring in stories and examples, because you had all that great theology and the archetype and the way to correlate with the Catholic experiences of the sacraments. And she said, have some stories.
Yes. She convinced me because everything was so dry. What I was writing, and she said, no, people are going to fall asleep. You need to put something interesting. And she said, well, do you mind if I write about us? And she said, no, we write about us. So we have some stories of ours in there. But so after I saw all those parishes used the program, they started calling us saying, this has been so successful in our parish. What else do you have that we can use? I said, we don't have anything else. Are you going to do anything else? No. Don't have any plans to do anything else. And so after a while, after all these calls, again, Terry was really the motor behind all of this. She kept on pushing me. There's a need there. Obviously, they're calling because there's a need, and they need something. So what can you provide them? I said, well, I have at least a series of articles on the Beatitudes that I wrote for the diocesan paper. So writing those articles really prepared me for this. I said we could write a small book on the Beatitudes, and then do the same thing as we did for the 6 days, do the videos and interviews. And so we did. It came out with the book called Blessed is Marriage. And this was very well received. In fact, it has been translated in Chinese and
Yeah.
has been adapted for couples in India. Uh,
Yeah.
and then the video program is called The Beatitudes, A Couple's Guide to Greater Joy. So
Hmm.
it followed the same pattern as the 6 states. Um, and then I retired from corporate work. So I said, okay,
I'm done.
I'm done. And we received a call from Ave Maria Press saying, could you and Terry write a marriage preparation program? We did have quite a bit of experience in marriage preparation. And I said, oh my, I just retired. I'm not sure I need to do this. And Terry said, what are you going to do anyway? You know, why don't we do it? I'll help you. And so I said, okay, if they do it my way, I'll
Yeah.
write it. If they want changes, if they want it done differently, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I wrote a proposal with what I thought was appropriate. And they said, yeah, we like it. Do it. So
Oh.
Joined by Grace came out, was the program. It was very extensive because there is a program for the engaged couple, which is a book like this.
Hmm.
And it's now in Spanish also. There's a book for the mentor couple that works with them. There's a book for the parish that organizes this. And then there is a prayer book. I don't have it here now. A prayer book for engaged couples and young married couples. And so that was done. And then again, I'm done.
No. You're not.
I went to a conference. It was a very big conference, and my publisher said, we haven't heard from you in a while. Do you? This is a different publisher than Ave Maria Press. Do you have anything cooking? I said, no, but I have been thinking about, I have some thoughts. Well, whenever you're ready, send it to us.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, we got married, couples engaged, prepared for marriage. Uh, we need to give them something for after marriage when they start feeling a little bit distant from each other. When they start losing that fire,
Yeah.
what can we do for them? And so I came up with the book 6 Jars of Love, which
Yeah.
is based on the wedding at Cana. The
Yeah.
couple in Cana ran out of wine. Well, we all run out of wine once in a while,
Yeah.
and only to Christ to help them with the wine. And we
Yeah.
need to use Christ, go to Christ and learn from Him. Again, learn how to love. Those qualities of acceptance and welcome and presence and sacrifice and forgiveness. All of that. We need to renew our commitment to letting Christ help us. One of the things that I did not say, and I meant to say, is that one of the things with this framework of the six attitude that is based on the sacraments is that for a couple who is practicing their faith, especially Catholics, you go to the sacraments to learn from Christ how to love, but then He gives you the graces to do what needs to be done. I think that's a piece that I don't want to forget to mention, because this is not a uh, get well book. I mean, it's growing faith book, really. All of these are growing faith book because it involves practicing your faith and letting Christ guide you and the Holy Spirit fill you with what you need to do for your marriage. So I did that, and then I had, and then COVID came, and I worked on since I was home, couldn't do anything, on a program on the virtues,
Yes.
a small video program. And now some of these are free online in my website. The 6 Days for Catholic Couple is free. The Virtues is free.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I was struck when I went to your website how much there is at no charge. So
Yes.
there are a lot of resources that our marriage champions can check out and find on your website that are at no charge. They can really get started, there. I
Right.
want you to back up just for a minute as you were talking about those 6 jars of love, and even going back to the how they connect with the different sacraments. And you had some examples. Remember, Teri wanted you to tell some stories. You had a really cute forgiveness story about, you talk about like confession and reconciliation being kind of the stepping stone there with forgiveness. Would you like to share that with us?
Before telling you about Terry, because Terry is the one who is the star of that, let me put one about myself.
Sure.
Uh, it has to do with acceptance. We were just married. One day I came home from work, and Terry said to me, "I made my favorite dish from Louisiana for you for dinner. So come enjoy, and let's enjoy it." And so we sit down and we said a prayer. She starts serving white rice and put some beans on it, and then she starts eating. And I said, "Well, is this it?"
Where's the rest of
Well,
it?
I tried to insult her. I said, "Are we poor? Do we have any meat?" No, this is not how this is how it's done. Oh, I really upset her, and I was very inconsiderate. That's a question of acceptance. I was not accepting her offer of something was supposed to be special for me, and I just threw it back in her face. We do that, and that shows that acceptance is important. But the one on forgiveness, one day Terry was upset with me, and so she left the house and went to the mall. She just needed to cool off. And at the mall, she stopped to get herself a cookie. And while she was there getting herself a cookie, kind of her conscience said, "I need to get one for John,"
Yeah.
because we never done separately. And so she bought one and came home, and actually came home and found me and threw the cookie at me and said, "Here, this is your cookie." And that broke the ice.
Yeah, she didn't really wanna get you the cookie, but she knew. I can think of ways, just making that conscious effort to think about your spouse, even when you're not super happy with them. I
Right, right. So anyway, that's those are two stories, but there's many stories in the book about us and things that we have done that we have learned from, I guess, mostly on the negative side. But there's another story where I had an autograph of Robert F. Kennedy that I had I received when I was in Washington studying at Catholic University, and a
Wow.
picture with him. And she one evening wanted to had friends over for dinner and said, "Would you let me use that picture? I want to show it to my friends, and give me also the autograph. We will take good care of it." Okay, fine. And that was it. She had dinner, and I went to bed. And the next morning, go to work. I received a phone call from work, and she said, "Oh, John, I'm so sorry." I said, "Sorry for what?" "Well, your picture. What happened? It got in the wash. It washed out. It got caught up with the tablecloth and got washed out."
Oh,
I lost the autograph, and the picture was all mangled. And she,
oh.
however, went. By the time she called me, she had called a photographer, somebody who could repair it. She wanted to repair it. Anyway, those are stories of life, and at those points, if you don't forgive, you go crazy.
Yeah.
You don't want to get even because it doesn't lead anywhere.
No.
Anyway, those are some of the stories.
I love that. Well, and then too, in your book, The Six Jars of Love, and you really started fleshing out some of those habits that
Yes.
keep couples connected. And I think now even more in our world where we're so into our phones and our technology, you really talk about developing some they kind of good manner habits. Can you talk a little bit about those? Because those kind of started and then they've been incorporated into some of your more recent
Right, right. In fact, in my book on the raising a Catholic family today, that is one of the things I'm stressing, the importance of developing good habits that promote, first of all, connection
yeah.
among people. And so the habit of being attentive, be accepting of each other, being attentive to each other, making sacrifices for each other. Those are very important. And then there is one for reconnecting when you are disjointed, and then how to heal each other. Anyway, so some of the examples, for example, for connecting, the simple thing of how you greet each other in the morning when you wake up. That's just, maybe a kiss, maybe a hug, maybe just a hi, good morning.
Yes.
Uh, and when you leave home, don't just disappear. Just say, I'm leaving. Or, I know people who, a friend of mine told me, and we were doing the same thing. I wouldn't leave home without giving her a kiss, because I knew that could be the last time. You never
You
know.
said there was a couple that you were working with, and the husband she thought he was upstairs and he had gone somewhere and didn't even, and even now people aren't learning these social
Yeah,
skills within their family of to
yeah,
say good morning, to say good night,
yeah.
to say I'm going out to the front yard or whatever.
Right, right. I learned that from my mother when I was a child. We would play in the neighborhood, and at 6 o'clock, my father worked in the local industry. There was a whistle. And when
Oh,
my mother trained us, when you hear the whistle, you come home because we're waiting for daddy to come home. And she would wait for him from the window. He would go with a bicycle coming. And
oh,
he said, now you go to the door and wait for him and greet him.
yeah.
And so that was the habit, we greet each other when we return home, and especially after a long day of work. And I think he really appreciated that. So
Mm.
those are some. The other one is a family meal. That is so important, and all the psychologists writing about the subject all say it's so important because it affects. One of them says the table is a place where children are being civilized. We
Yes.
teach them to be part of the tribe. We listen to their stories. We teach them to listen to our stories. We teach them good manners, how to deal with each other, how to respect each other, how to eat, all those basic things, uh, as well as the among other habits would be simply just make it a habit to say I'm sorry when you make a mistake, and perhaps even go beyond that, be specific. I'm sorry about doing that, so that you recognize your sinful, not sinfulness necessarily, but your mistake, and then also healing in terms of sacrament, in terms of the ritual. I call them rituals of love or
Mm.
love rituals because we teach our children, especially when we teach them this, we teach them how to love. That
Yeah.
is how, those are the fundamentals, the basic of love, just being human, being able to just be together and respect each other and be attentive to each other, and put up with each other, and help each other when needed. And the same is for appreciating the services that we do. Somebody has to cook, somebody has to clean the dishes, somebody has to. There was a family that I interviewed that said, when children receive First Communion, it's the time for them to start working in the kitchen. And
Mm.
so they would take turns doing the dishes, cleaning, taking the garbage out, helping the family with little tasks in the home. So uh, that's what I try to capture in the Raising a Catholic Family today. It's a book. It's a very basic, I would say 0.01 Catholic parenting book, but I think it's necessary because we have forgotten a lot of things.
Yes, and
Sometimes
that's one that just came out recently, right? And I want to make sure we hit that title, that the Raising a Catholic Family Today, Building a Domestic Church, a Handbook for Parents,
yes,
just came out in 2023, that really encapsulates these for those people that you saw through the pre-marriage program and then saw through the 6 dates and the jars, and then now they're parents and they need
right,
some help.
right. And now for my parish for Lent, this coming Lent, I have taken excerpts from the book and made them 47 little paragraphs that start in Ash Wednesday through Easter Sunday. The parish will be sending to all families.
Oh, that's so
So it would
nice.
be like, I believe in the effect of the drop. There is a Latin proverb that says, "Gutta cavat lapidem." That is, the little drop makes a hole in the rock.
Yeah.
One drop at a time, one drop at a time, one drop at a time. Eventually makes a difference. And so a little message every day, little message every day will make. I hope will make a difference. And I'll be meeting with parents during Sunday morning to discuss those messages while their children are educated at the religious education classes.
I just think that is, like you said, God just keeps pushing you. He is not done with you yet. You're 81 and you're meeting with parents between the services while they're to help help them instill that great good habits and learning that that is a lot to be commended. I just had an idea. Maybe your parish, as you're putting together those Lenten messages, maybe that could be your next book for next year. You could put those all together and offer those to others. Because, like you said, a little drop. We don't want to hide your light under a bushel.
Well, you're right. You're right. And I thought of that. I thought of that, honestly, because I put a lot of work in that. But, it's a matter for me at this moment, without Terry, it's a matter of survival. So now God isn't pushing me. I'm going. I'm doing it because I have to be busy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I go crazy. So that's why I'm doing those things. I'm also planning a pilgrimage to Italy. I'm doing a variety of things. So, but God has blessed us. We had a great marriage. I'm very thankful for that. And anything I can give, I'll be glad to give it.
Well, John, it has been such a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for being here. You have really really helped us see. It's a lovely tribute to Terry and the legacy that you guys have left and that we are still continuing.
Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to interview with you because I want people to be aware of what's available. And if this can be helpful to anybody, I'm very happy. God will be happy, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. And Marriage Champions, if you'd like to know more about the Bosios, you can always find us at marriageresources.org or marriageinitiative.org.